We've seen how to link between documents, but we want to see using named anchors to link within documents. Now I've got a bunch of terminology up here in the overview using HTML and HTTP all over the place. And unfortunately my definition list for terminology is down here lower, and you can't actually see it when we're on the top of the page. So I've got some text here that says see the section on terminology for definitions used here. And I want to make a link that allows you to jump down further into the document to see that. So let's go over here to our outline. And I'll go find that section, the terminology section, and I'm simply going to wrap an anchor tag without an href. I'm going to say the name is terminology, and I'm also going to give it a title. I'll call that technical terms, and then I'll close that after the H2. So we've got our anchor now that's named. And the thing we're targeting is this heading. That's where we want to go. So if we follow a link to this named anchor, then we should come to this terminology section. So back up here at the top where we have that text, now I want to make this word my source. So I create an anchor tag. I'm going to give it an href. And now it looks a little different than what we saw before because we're using this hash symbol and the name of that tag. So hash or pound symbol terminology is the path. That's the name of the anchor we want to go and find. This is a pretty common nomenclature or identifiers for items within an HTML document. You see it used a lot in different scripting languages for identifying things by their name or by their ID. We'll save that. Come back out. And now we see that terminology is a hyperlink. If we click it, now we get dropped down. Now it took me down as far as it could. You can see my scroll bar is all the way down, but it got us to the point where we can now get to that terminology piece. You also notice if I mouse over that, we see technical terms. That was the title that I put on the anchor tag. And that renders out there to give us some indication of what that anchor is representing. Otherwise, you don't really have any indication visually that that is an anchor, that that's a target you could go to. We did see visualization of this, right? When we're a source, it usually shows up as some sort of hyperlink by default that we can click on. But a normal named anchor, it doesn't show up, so the title allows you to make it have some particular meaning. Might also be used if someone who's visually impaired is working with your page and a reader can identify that. So that's within the particular page, but what about going to another page? So we had our link down here to the text elements. What I'm going to do is go to text HTML. I'm going to do deep link. So notice I'm using the syntax, the relative syntax to get to the file, and then I'm going to use the naming here for that deep link. So if we switch over to the text page, you'll see right here I have an anchor named deep link that is on the second section of text. So it should take me down to the middle of the page, and that's the end of the anchor. So what I'm doing is saying take me to that page and further take me down into the named anchor within that particular page. So we'll go in here, we'll go on the text elements now and click that. And notice we're right in the middle of the page. We're at that header called second section where that named anchor is. It dropped us right down in there. And you can see that we can scroll up and get to that. Now notice that that's right in the URI. That was the address that it gave to the browser, that the browser went to. So if we come in and just go to HTML, we get to the top of the page. If we add that piece in, that's a link down into a named anchor within the document and allows us to go right to that section. This is really useful if you're referencing these documents with lots of content in them to be able to jump to a specific point in that document that's relevant for you. I mentioned that we could also link based on the ID. So let's go into this text file and we'll give the H2 an ID here, call it second section. And I'm going to copy that and simply save the file and go back now to my outline. And now I'm going to replace deep link with second section. So from the source perspective, it's the same idea. I'm going to a particular file, and I'm going to a named element. In this case, I just happen to be going to the ID of a standard HTML element that isn't an anchor. We'll save that as well. Switch back into our browser and refresh. And now if we go down to the text elements, you'll see we're going to second section in here instead of the named anchor, and that still gets us to the same place. So it didn't give us any different result. It's just another way of referring to your target is by using the ID of those particular elements. So either work. The named anchor is a bit more explicit in that you're creating that anchor explicitly for use, but you can also go to those named elements by their IDs.